Good afternoon, Aurelia Davis, the educator's educator, coming to you on a new Monday of a new week. Just glad to be here and hope everyone is doing well. Just you, teachers is almost you're almost there. You're almost there. Congratulations if you've been able to stay the whole time. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. Um, if you have not did so yet, if you have not did so as of yet, go over to my website, aureliadavis.com, click on the Thrive Retreat. I'll say it again. Go over to aureliadavis.com and click on the Thrive Retreat. That's going to take place July 30th through August 4th in Tulum, Mexico this summer. So how can you not give yourself the perfect gift of relaxing and being able to get away from everything after teaching all year long? This retreat is for educational leaders and teachers, and anybody in the field of education can come. We are going to be meeting at least 5 days and 6 nights. Food, three square meals will be provided every day. We're going to be doing yoga. There are going to be some very innovative and very insightful workshops that's going to be happening, and we want you to be in the place. I'm going to be in the place, so I want you to be in the place. And so if you have not gone to register yet, feel free to go over to aureliadavis.com, register on the Thrive Retreat. That's going to be taking place July 30th through August 4th in Tulum, Mexico. Can't wait to see you there. Take care. Okay, all right, getting into what we're going to talk about today. Tennessee could overhaul, reading the reading law after 60% of their third graders did not meet the benchmark. I'll say it again. Tennessee, with their state test, could overhaul the reading law after 60% of the state's third graders did not meet the benchmark. This is very dear to me for the simple reason that I taught third grade. And I was in place when tests state standardized tests started to be in place. In other words, they were, instead of each district doing their own tests, test assessments came down from the state itself, where the educators or the educational department of the state decided that there needs to be some kind of a measurement for children going through school. And the interesting thing, back in the day when I was giving the test to my third graders, it was called the ISET. And of course, it has changed over the years and so on and so forth. But those particular individuals at the state level decided that third grade was a good measuring grade to see if children were to go on to the next grade, which will be fourth through 12th grade. They they decided that third grade would be the benchmark grade. That's exactly what they called it. They called it the benchmark grade. Benchmark meaning that this is the grade that we start testing children to see exactly how much they know, see exactly what they know. And they also took into account that during, from preschool to second grade, a lot of the skills were being built on, or a lot of the skills were being taught. And I should know that because I'm a preschool educator. I have my degree in preschool. And so the learning curves and the skills were basically taught or heavily taught from preschool to second grade. And by third grade, you start to build on the skills that are already in place, but you also are starting to assess the children to see exactly how much they do know, how much they do know. Well, Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, unfortunately found out that at least 60% of their children did not pass the benchmark. 60% of their third graders did not pass the benchmark. And there was a great concern in place where they had to make they made a newspaper article. They made a news article out of it, to the point where parents were concerned, teachers were concerned, schools were concerned, and of course the district was very concerned. Because how, if the law stated that these children could not go on to fourth grade uh, without having gotten the correct scores for third grade, then you're talking about at least 70% of the children being left behind. And when you think about children not passing on to the next grade, there has been a lot of controversial information about that, to some positive and some negative. Um, Positive to the point where they decide that children should not go on if you just keep passing them on. And this is what happened years and years and years ago. If you keep passing children on, they will never catch up to what they have not learned. If you keep passing them from grade to grade to grade to grade, they will never catch up to what they have not learned. And so if you have for example, if you have a first grader that's reading at like kindergarten level or less, to pass him on to first grade, you pass him on to second grade and third grade, he still will not have accomplished what he needs in order to pass third grade or to be on the level of a third grader. In other words, to be able to read at the third grade level. And so in that case, they have decided that some children need to be held back so that they can play catch up. That works in some instances, and sometimes it does not. First of all, I believe that if a child is at least 2 grades behind, say for instance they're in third grade, and being that the core groups, the core subjects of reading and math. Okay, reading and math. We can put science and social studies in there. But those core subjects of reading and math, and if they are behind in those particular subjects, it's going to be very hard for that child to play catch up, especially if you move them from third grade on to fourth grade and fifth grade. And so what they have decided, and some states have decided, is that if you hold them back when they're younger, then they'll have the opportunity to do better by the time they get into the intermediate grades. Me personally, I feel that if a child comes to me in third grade and they're still reading at the first grade level, I'm going to take a special look at that child to see exactly what happened to the point where they cannot read at third grade level. So I'm going to delve, as an educator, I'm going to delve into their background. I'm going to delve into where they attended school. If they attended at our school, I'm going to go back and talk to those particular teachers that was working with their child. And if it's to the point where they should have set up set up something where the child could be tested, or assessed by counselors, social workers, and so on and so forth. Let's see what's happening. Let's see if there's a deficit in place where this child cannot read at grade level. Let's see if there's a definite deficit in place if the child cannot do math at grade level. And all of those factors should be in place before you decide to fail a child or leave a child behind, keep him from going on to the next grade. Another factor needs to be in place is age. Is age. A lot of states will not allow children to attend school or start school uh, if they're early fives or late fours. They feel they need to be 5+ and up. So you might find a 6-year-old in a kindergarten classroom, but the maturity level of that child is very important as far as them being able to learn, and their skill building at that particular age. So a lot of factors taking place. And so when I was teaching, or when I was testing my children in third grade, the majority of my students did make it. The majority of my students did make it. My colleague and I would get together in the beginning of the year, knowing that we were considered benchmark mark grades because we did teach third grade. And what we would do is we would sort of plan out our year as to when we was in the skills, plan out our year as to when we were going to teach the necessary skills for the children to pass the test. Now, it did not mean that we taught to the test. No, we did not teach to the test. But what we did find ourselves doing is that we would look at the skills that they needed to learn in third grade, and then we would look at our reading book. We would look at our math books, social studies, and science books, those four core subject areas, and see exactly what we needed to tap into in order for those children to achieve that test. And we did not start it in January, about a month away from the test, but we started it in September. And for about 6 or 7 years, about 3 or 4 years, we just kept up the that continuous what you call it plan to put our children in place so that when they did see this test, it was something that they were familiar with. Okay, once they were given the test, they were very familiar with the materials that was on that particular test. And 9 times out of 10, they did well. Now, did every child in the classroom pass? No, not necessarily. But we did, I would say, out of 100%, maybe about 10% of our children may, between two classrooms of third graders, may not have been able to pass that particular standardized test given by the state. And then what we would do is we would take into factors as to why those particular children were not able to pass. A lot of times they may have been slated under special ed. They may have been considered bilingual. They may have been having issues in those particular core subjects before. And so in the meantime, we could only feed into them what we felt was necessary, but it did not mean that they were going to be able to to be able to be successful as far as that standardized test. So when you think about, when I get back to Tennessee, it makes me wonder. I'm just going to, how much, what was basically these students looking like in third grade anyway? What did last year's third graders do? How did they do? And if there's 60%, that's a large number of children not being able to meet the benchmark. But what you have the right, as educators, you can go back and tap into those particular schools. Were they more so in some areas, than other areas? Some schools more than other schools. All of those factors need to be taking place. But what was driving them to the point where they were thinking about taking the law out itself is that the parents were upset, and they had the right to be upset. What do you mean my child can't pass the third grade reading test? And I was looking at that YouTube article, and they took that same test and they took it to the streets, and they were asking some of the adults some of the questions on that test, and even some of the adults were not able to pass it. OMG. So when you think about the subject of reading, reading is a building block. It starts first with phonics, the alphabet, vocabulary, and it gets on, and then you start to get into the mechanics of reading, the English, plurals and different things and whatever. But it's a building block. And if the bases have not been in place, if the bases were not in place, then in the meantime, what ends up happening is that there's a skipping of skills. And those skills will never come together if you don't have the basis. If you don't have the basics, the basics in place. And when I think about the basics, I think about the alphabet and phonics and sight words. That's me. I think about the alphabet, I think about phonics and sight words. That's what I was able to do in my class. That's what I did in my classroom. And that's how my children did thrive in the areas of reading. Now, if you ask me, were they always on grade level? No, they were not. But they were able to get through passages and then be able to comprehend what they read. They were able to read fluently through a passage or through a sentence to understand. And then I always told them, if you don't understand what you're reading, go back and read it again. So there were some structured skills that I put in place with my children as far as reading is concerned. This even goes back to when I first started teaching. And at that time, we had the reading groups. Okay, let's just be honest. We had the reading groups. We had the bunny rabbits and the little puppies and so on and so forth. So there were basically 3 reading groups in your classroom, 3 reading groups in your classroom. Those children that were reading at grade level, those children that were having problems somewhat in the vocabulary and so on and so forth. And then those were the children, the non-readers themselves. That low group was the non-readers themselves. And so after you had, back in those days, what we did is we kept those children in certain reading groups. But we soon found out as educators that these particular reading groups did not advance children to the next level. Having these reading groups in place did not advance children to the next level. So what we did then, we had the same reader, same basal reader for all of our children, but as we started giving them assessments in what was being done and what was being read, then we divided them into the groups of skills that they needed help in. The non-readers, so you're talking about sight words and phonics, and then you have those children in the middle group that may have had issues explaining or writing to an answer or comprehension. And then of course you had those children that were on grade level that you can easily push to the next grade. So it comes down to, how are children being taught to read? I just asked that question. In 2024, how are children being taught to read? I have so many different ideas about that, but at this time, I'm gonna just sort of keep it to myself until I do a little bit more research to see, because I haven't been in a classroom in a long time, but I would love to go into a classroom. I have quite a few teacher friends and principal friends, so I might tap into and go into a second grade classroom or a third grade classroom just to see exactly how children are being taught to read these days. This is Aurelia Davis coming to you. Should benchmarks be eliminated for third graders as far as measuring reading scores? Something to think about, something to think about. And like I said in the beginning, if you have not had the opportunity to go over to AureliaDavis.com and tap on the Thrive Retreat to just get some valuable information of what we're going to be doing in July 30th through August 4th, do so today. Do so right now. Take care and have a great one. Talk to you soon.